I'm going to interject though. You're giving us a lot of what's, and we can see this as well. Why are you failing? We all know what's wrong with your club. High line, players, man. But why though? Is it Klopp, FSG, mixture? We want to get to the whys here, my bro.
The why is...
Say it. Don't worry. Communist Mersey. We'll protect you from communist Merseyside, but go for it.
Look, this season's on Klopp. This season is on Klopp. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This season is on Klopp. This man had the opportunity in the summer to buy midfielders and instead hedged all his bets on Jude Bellingham. And now we're not even going to bloody get Jude Bellingham. So then what? We have wasted the genius of this club and its plans. We spent 4 years pining after Jude Bellingham just to not get him. We've wasted 3 summers where we could have bought a midfielder. We haven't bought a midfielder since Thiago. And we've wasted 3 windows going, nah, we'll get Bellingham. We'll get Bellingham. Bellingham's the one. And now Real Madrid are going to go get him. And then what do? We end up with a new 1-year extension for James Milner. I know you love your first target this, your first target that. Go and just buy competent midfielders because, my God, you cannot keep getting away with a 19-year-old right winger in centre mid in the Premier League. His tactics, he took ages to change his tactics. We've been through 3 tactics this season. 3 of them. And none of them are any good. They just expose different weaknesses in the team. I can't be bothered, man.
Let me ask you a question. Do you disagree with anything that I'm about to say? This is the same old problems this whole season. You guys lack confidence. You guys look like you're not showing any fight. You're slow to react. You went with one of your most attacking lineups with having Bobby Firmino, Salah, and Darwin Núñez. You still couldn't score that second goal. And now Anfield's not even looking like a fortress anymore. So at this point, it's on everybody. But who individually are you? You can't even point it at one individual. So my main point is, are Liverpool finished?
We're not far off it, I'll tell you that much. The players are crap. The atmosphere is dead. The owners don't want to invest, and the manager's too stubborn.
On that Liverpool being finished, Igal, expand on what you mean by that.
Are they finished? And with this crop of players, even if they try to refresh, they would need a lot of investment to get themselves back, because you got Fabinho out of form, looking like he's completely done. You got Van Dijk playing terrible. You got Mo Salah not scoring. You got Bobby Firmino and some of these guys. You already know they're at their last legs. And to overhaul this squad, it's going to take a lot of freshening up in that midfield, because they have no midfield, and it's just looking like last year was probably their last year at the top of the table. I'm not saying they're finished in the sense of finishing in Champions League, but they're finished in the sense of being a team that everyone fears that is going to be competing on all fronts. I genuinely believe that.
And this is the thing, because obviously the question was who do you think this is on? And Tom first said this season's on Klopp, and it's a weird one in the sense that I think I said this last week. If Klopp was, let's say, a bit more reserved, or maybe have a bit of a defeatist / realistic mindset, Liverpool could get top 4. He could concede that this team's not good enough to win the league and just be a bit more defensive, know that you've got the attacking prowess to get 1 or 2 goals, sometimes on the break, and win most games to get top 4. But is that acceptable for Liverpool, that their manager and their club basically accept that we are not good enough to win the title? Because that's what it would take for you to
don't you think they have done leagues?
No.
I feel like they have. They've accepted that.
But I think the way that Klopp is playing tells me he still thinks they're big bad Liverpool who can play in a certain way to beat the teams. When if he accepted that they weren't good enough to do that, I think he'd be a bit more defensive and he'd win more games.
It's stubbornness.
But is that good enough that Liverpool can accept?
No, because this isn't the first time.
For years for just accepting top 4, because before that there were challenges for the major trophies.
This is the first time it's happened with Klopp, though. The year we had no centre-backs, that man waited until March to put 2 centre-backs in there. He stuck by Jordan Henderson at centre-back for 3 months because he's stubborn. He's so inbuilt in his beliefs that he doesn't see what's wrong and he doesn't change. And however you get it through his head that sometimes you have to change, sometimes you have to go a bit negative, sometimes you have to understand that your midfield three of Thiago Alcantara, Fabinho, who's finished, and Harvey Elliott is not good enough. It's getting dumb. It got outran by 11 kilometres by Leeds. It has not won a single midfield battle this season. It has not won one midfield battle this season. No matter who they've put in, no matter what, we've won one, and it was Bournemouth. And they were crap. They're now good. So we've won one midfield battle, and we are on the 31st of October. And he's stuck by this summer going, we don't need midfielders. We don't need midfielders. Bellingham's the answer. He actually had the audacity to tell me Tyler Morton is a good 8.
Question, though, and I know I see lots of different people speaking about this online. Is this Klopp sort of towing the party line in the sense of not wanting to make fans panic and saying that he's happy? Or has he rejected tens of millions or hundreds of millions of pounds that could have been invested this summer into your midfield? I suppose that's the question. If the money's there and he said no to it, then you've got to blame Klopp because he said no. But if Klopp's just saying, Fergie did this with the Glazers, where he said there's no value in the market. What he was actually saying is, we don't have the money to invest in players. You know, Aguero, David Silva, the list goes on of individuals we could have signed, but the club weren't prepared to pay the transfer fee. Is that what's going on here? Because I do agree with you, Gal. If they don't start spending more money with what Todd Bowley's doing at Chelsea, with Newcastle coming up, Man United improving, Arsenal best team in the league right now, and Man City being there. When you say finished, of course, Liverpool will always be Liverpool, but they're not making top 4 this year. And they won't be making it next year either. And Klopp's going to walk if this continues. So where does the blame? Is it Klopp saying no? What do you reckon, George? Is it Klopp saying no, or is it FSG being tight-fisted?
So I think for me, it goes both ways. That even if Klopp is saying no, then of course you look at the manager and it'd just be silly. The whole summer he was saying he didn't need extra players. He didn't want the midfield. And then 3-4 days before the deadline, they're looking for a new centre mid. Like, it made no sense. There's clearly no planning from his side. And it reminds me of Pochettino at Tottenham, to be honest, because when you're a yes man for too long, you get comfortable in that and just pleasing the fans and trying to be pleasing to everyone and be like, no, but this is good, this is fine, we'll work with it. And that is the wrong approach to have. Klopp should be, even if the owners are saying we don't have enough money, put some pressure on them in the press. Say the owners aren't giving me what I need to do the job that I need to do, because I'm not being funny. You look back at, if Klopp leaves this season, you're going to look back at his 7 years, and although there was some great years, you're going to look back at his time as it wasn't that great. It was a bit of a failure because he had so much with that team. He could have done so much more, and they came so close to doing so many amazing things, but they came so far at the same time. So for me, it's all on Klopp. Klopp needs to be a bit more demanding to the owners, tell them, and like Conte would come out and just be a bit more brash about it. Say this team isn't good enough. Like Nick said, say this isn't good enough. Say these things and be a bit more blunt with the way that he takes this, because you see him put a lot of blame on refs. He puts a lot of blames on everything. He'll find an excuse on anything apart from his team, his players, and his job. So he needs to be a bit more blunt on that side of things. And for me, it's all Klopp.
We'll see how long my internet lasts for, so apologies for that. But
as long as it's here for the Chelsea section, that's all that matters.
That's next. That's next.
Ninx is loud and proud because his team's finally winning now. But I hear it. I actually disagree with you guys. I couldn't disagree more with what everyone's saying. And I think this is a classic case of almost the guy who created this great thing is now being crucified for the time that obviously the team isn't performing. Because you have to remember, it was Klopp who brought Liverpool back to the top in terms of that. And I think people are forgetting that in terms of what managers of old, so Pep's, the Alex Ferguson's, what they have said is needed in terms of building long-term successful teams is investment. And Klopp's not an idiot. Like, he probably knows this as well. And I'm not saying I'm not inside Liverpool. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that there are situations where clubs and managers have a certain relationship where managers will never talk badly on those clubs, regardless of what's happening behind the scenes and regardless of what they want. That's not to say that he doesn't want investment. That's not to say that he doesn't want players. But I find it very hard to believe, especially if I look at my own club as well, that Klopp didn't want a midfielder and then they go out and buy Arthur Melo because they need numbers, or they get him on loan. So I struggle to believe that in the same case, if you
Man
use
did
Chelsea's
multiple interviews though,
one sec,
saying
one sec, one
Believe
sec,
it, mate.
one sec. Let me just finish, and then you can go through. So yeah, the same situation happened at Chelsea in terms of needing numbers and then just filling in the gaps by getting a Dennis Zakaria with no intention of using him, instead of actually getting someone that could actually compete and whatnot. And that comes down to maybe spending in other areas, doing so much that you're not able to do so. So when it comes to Klopp and the Liverpool situation, it's just a hard line because it comes back to that argument that Terry, we've spoken about this in the past, where are you making this argument to just win this one debate and then it doesn't feed into all the other?
No, yeah.
Just very quickly, because we're saying that Klopp is so stubborn in his ways and da-di-da-di-da, but I won't lie to you, the most successful managers are the ones that have been, in this day and age anyway, are the ones that stick to that. Because you George, you made a lot of comparisons to Conte. One of the things that Conte hasn't done, through all the toxicity that people are saying, and that he's played the same way. Nothing's changed in this football. He's been consistent. He plays Emerson Royale week in, week out. Fair enough, Matt Doherty came in for extreme circumstances, but he's played the same way. He hasn't changed what he's done. Pep Guardiola, when things were not looking great, he stayed the same way. Arteta, when he was having a torrid period where he could have been sacked multiple times, he's played the same way. And fair enough, we understand that we can say we've seen this coming. But in my opinion, just like Pep Guardiola said in his interview with Rio Ferdinand, it is impossible to keep winning with the same group of players. You have to invest. You have to change the team.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
No, I agree with that. That's why for me, I'm not. I think Klopp's wrong for not making adjustments this season, in the sense of, you mentioned Arteta. There was a point where Arteta had to play very pragmatically and defensively, because if he opened up, his team was getting smashed to pieces. And I think Jurgen Klopp has to adapt if the ownership are not giving him what he wants. I do think it's a combination of the two. That it nearly always is, and it's a hard thing for him to step out his way from doing. Question is though, as it stands right now, are Liverpool going to make the top four? Does anyone see them still making it? Because I've kind of for the last 2 or 3 weeks been saying, I can't write them off. But at the moment, with the trajectory of 3 or 4 other clubs, can they conceivably make it? Or
until they show me that they can have a level of consistency, I can't see them finishing in the top 4 at all.
For me, I don't see Klopp changing his style either soon enough, if at all, which to enable them to pick up the relevant points to get top 4. I think he's going to continue to play his way because he's a winner. So he's going to play in a way that has given him success over the last few years. But I don't think this team are capable to do that anymore. So I think they're going to continue playing this way. They're going to keep dropping points. And by time he maybe thinks, oh, let me change it now, like he did in the season where they had all the injuries, they'll be too far back. And everyone above are playing well, or they're picking out results, most of them anyway.
I hear that.
I think when you go, Tom, I just think that, I'm sorry, man. You're gonna hate this, but I can't write them off, man. I've seen it too many times.
Do you still think they have a delivery window? I mean,
they have a chance
to deliver a title. That's what I mean.
Title? No.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. You still think they still have a window with this crop of players, if they freshen up a little bit, to deliver another title?
I think they need to freshen up a lot, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot there, because you say with this crop of players, I think they need about 5 new players.
I mean, if Trent gets over his defensive deficiencies, a midfielder or 2, a centre back, and somebody else. It's 3 or 4. It's 4 or 5 players. Probably 4 or 5 players they need, which they haven't invested enough in. So of course they can. I mean, Klopp is still a world-class manager, irrespective of what's going on right now. But listen, this is why when Liverpool fans try pushing this notion of he's better than Pep because he doesn't need money to win, nonsense. Every top manager in the modern-day history of the game needs to spend money to win. Otherwise, you would just take the squad you get and you turn them world class. It's impossible to do. No manager has ever done that over a multiple season period. You might be able to get like Wes Morgan and Robert Hoof to be title winning centre back pairing for 1 year. No one's doing that 2, 3, 4 years on the bounce. I'm not suggesting that Van Dijk's Wes Morgan, but they've got the same prem. So I don't know.
He might be right now.
Are they set up well for the future?